Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Katie and I make book-related videos every single Wednesday. Well, not every Wednesday, clearly. I think this is the first time I've sat down and filmed a video in 3 weeks, but my internship just got really intensive with interviews, group projects, final projects. I have a week left and now it's gonna be much more relaxed, but it's not like when I lived alone and I can just film at midnight or 6 a.m. when I have free time, because I don't want to be that asshole since I'm living with a bunch of people right now. But luckily for once I have the apartment to myself, so I'm going to do a couple of reviews for you guys, spoiler free of course as normal, but I'm going to be talking about The Devil in Nanking by HAYDER and Annihilation by Fred Vandermeer. And you guys know it's not normal for me to just fling out 5 stars and to gush about books, but I adored both of these. They're easily favorites now, so I wanted to talk about them. So the first book is The Devil in Nanking and HAYDER, and I'm pretty sure I showed this in a book haul, but most terrifying book cover I've ever seen before. And my roommate, actually I think I've shown this to you as well, but I'll show it again, but my roommate was reading it as well, so I opened up at like my drawer at like 10 or 11 at night when I'm really tired, I was getting ready for bed, and I opened up my drawer with like my moisturizer or whatever the hell, and this is there. And then I open up my underwear drawer, there's another one. Under my pillow, there's another one. I think she had like a total of 7, I'm not sure, there could be more still. But anyway, The Devil in Nanking is told from 2 perspectives. The first being, I assume most of you guys know what the rape of Nanking is, that occurred in 1937 when the Japanese attacked the Chinese city of Nanking. But one point of view is that of Shi Zhongming. He's a Chinese man living in Nanking, and right away when the book starts off, this is not a spoiler, it's how it begins, there is this horrific act, and you're not told what this horrific act is until actually the end of the book, but all you know is Shi Zhongming has witnessed this horrific thing that has happened, even more horrific than the types of things you generally hear about happen in the rape of Nanking, which says a lot. He sees this act occur, he knows that this one man has filmed this event, so he takes the camera and now he is in possession of this documentation of this horrific thing that has happened. Then the story jumps forward in time. I want to say it takes place in the early 90s, I don't remember, but there's a young English woman named Gray who has some psychiatric issues. She travels all the way to Japan where Shi Zhongming now lives in search of this videotape because she's heard that he has it. She's quite a few mental issues, and the crux of them has been that she heard about this horrific act that happened. She read about it in a book. No one believed her, so she's in search of this videotape as evidence for the fact that she's not insane and she didn't just come up with this horrific event that happened. So Shi Zhongming makes her a bargain when she finds him. Again, this is all right at the beginning of the book, and he tells her, I'll show you the videotape if you go on this certain quest for me. I feel like that's a longer plot summary than I normally give, but because it was 2 perspectives, it just takes a while to explain. But one of my favorite aspects of this book is the house that Gray moves into in Japan. She lives with 3 other people her age there. The house, it's a very old, cheaply made Japanese home that just feels very thin, and all of the very basement sort of first layer of the home is completely blocked off, and it's very sort of disquieting, and you always have this sense that the house is so thin and holding secrets and just gonna collapse at any moment. I also really enjoyed the dual perspective and how they build on each other, because you have the one perspective, Shi Zhongming, where he's in China and he knows the Japanese are coming, and then you also have the perspective of Gray and trying to sort of solve this quest Shi Zhongming has sent her on, and it sort of leads to this crescendo of this, final horrifying moment for both of them. And because of that, the tone of this book was just wonderful. You really have that sense of just impending dread, and there are also a lot of really wonderful themes throughout it. One thing that Gray really struggles with is the idea, is ignorance just as bad as evil? And that's something that's talked about a lot throughout this book. So overall, it just felt incredibly unique. If you're looking, it almost felt like a combination of a coming of age horror novel / detective novel, but it was also quite well written, so I just really enjoyed it. I honestly don't have a lot of cons for either of these books I'm talking about today, which is really rare for me. I did see some reviews saying people felt like it was a little bit too dragged out, and I think some of Shi Zhongming's parts were a little bit in particular, but overall I really enjoyed this and gave it 5 stars. And next is a book I finished late last night. I stayed up and then I had a difficult time sleeping, and that is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. So this plot takes in the not too distant future. Actually, I assume not too distant. You're not actually provided with a ton of background, and that's definitely intentional. You don't really know what year this takes place, where exactly it takes place. So some people might not like that. They might think, oh, there's not enough world building, but that's very intentional here, and it adds to the very sort of eerie nature of the book, just because for so much of the book you really really don't know anything, and you don't even know a ton about the narrator. So this is the story of 4 women who volunteer to work for the government and to venture into Area X. Now, you're not even told their names. The narrator is the biologist, then there's the psychologist who's the leader, the surveyor, and the anthropologist. So Area X is this area that not a lot of people know a lot about, the government doesn't even know a lot about, so they have volunteers with sort of a certain expertise to go into the area and explore it. So this is the 11th expedition, and these women know that sometimes horrible things have happened to the previous expeditions, but really there's not a lot of background to this, and I think that's what makes the book so wonderful, because there's just an incredibly disquieting nature around this entire book. It just feels very disconnected, and that's not normally something you'd want. You wouldn't normally want a book or narrator to feel disconnected or for there to be a lack of world building, but I can't explain how well it works here. It's also very rare that, and I don't mean this in a pompous way, like I never get scared, because I get scared about things, but books don't tend to scare me that much just because I read a lot of creepy horror novels, but this one really got to me to the point where I did feel a little uncomfortable in my room, so I think that kind of says a lot. It also, the writing in this, I cannot emphasize enough, was absolutely stunning, and I think when I heard the basic plot summary of what it was about, when I saw the cover, Annihilation, with this sort of like weird tentacle thing, I assumed honestly it would be a fun, cheesy horror novel, but it is the farthest thing from that. The writing was beautiful, and it was just so much deeper than that, and just I found myself just rereading sentences and paragraphs. So although it should have been a very quick read, I found myself kind of almost savoring it as I went through. I know that this is the first in a trilogy, so if you've read the others, let me know what you thought about them, obviously without spoiling them. But overall, if you're looking for a new sort of creepy read, I highly recommend The Devil and Named King, especially if you want to read something that also has a lot to do with another culture, and if you want sort of a detective novel situation, and I highly recommend Annihilation if you're looking for sort of a horror sci-fi. And one other quick note I forgot to say about Annihilation, but although it was written in 2015, I didn't realize that initially when I was reading it, and it really had the sense to me as if it was almost written in the 1950s. It just very much felt, because of the writing, like a new classic. So those are 2 new favorites of mine. Please let me know if you've read either of them or anything else by the other authors that you would recommend. I'll put the link here if you want to go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!